Can you hear? Can you hear me now? What about now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. We're good. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Cool, cool. Okay. So what I found was this a 1966 New York Times article where it says this was written by a bunch of Black ministers in 1966. Okay, so if I scroll down here, it says signatory. So we got Bishop John D. Bright, First Episcopal District, Philadelphia, Reverend John Bryan, all these people. Okay, there's a bunch of ministers on here, as you can see. So this article, it says Black Power, statement by National Committee of Negro Churchmen. So this is from Black pastors. So it is unmistakable. This is from a whole group of Black pastors. Okay, now we're not going to read the whole thing. All right, we're not going to read the entire thing, but we are going to read a little bit. It says, we, an informal group of Negro churchmen in America, are deeply disturbed about the crisis brought upon our country by historic distortions of important human realities in the controversy about Black power, the phrase Black power. Jamari, listen, girl, this is okay. So this is what they were saying. They were disturbed about, they have it in quotes, quote unquote, Black power. What we see shining through the variety of, showing through, it's a little blurry. Showing through the variety of rhetoric is not anything new, but the same old problem of power and race, which has faced our beloved country since 1619. All right. We realize that neither the term power nor the term Christian conscience, are easy matters to talk about, and especially in the context of race relations in America. Yeah, Demaria. The I'm sorry. Um, we realize that neither the term power nor the term Christian conscience are easy matters to talk about, and especially in the context of race relations in America. The fundamental distortion facing us in the controversy about Black power is rooted in a gross imbalance of power and conscience between Negro and white Americans. It is the distortion mainly which is responsible for the widespread, though often inarticulate, assumption that white people are justified in getting what they want through the use of power, but that Negro Americans must either by nature or by circumstances make their appeal only through conscience. As a result, the power of white men and the conscience of Black men, so we got power and conscience, the power of white men and the conscience of Black men have both been corrupted. The power of white men is corrupted because it meets little meaningful resistance from Negroes to temper it and keep white men from something God, from I can't make out. Keep white men from, I can't even make it out. Something God. Um the this gets a little even blurrier. Here's another we're gonna skip down. I'm gonna put the link for this in the chat, and that way you guys can go and check this out for yourself. Okay, so but here's a part that wait, is this not? Okay, yes, I'm going to share this. Okay, here's a part that it says this is the one of the third pieces of this article in the New York Times 1966. Okay, this is the New York Times 1966. To Negro citizens, right here, to Negro citizens, power and justice, both the anguished cry for Black power and the confused emotional response to it can be understood if the whole controversy is put in the context of American history. Especially must we understand the irony involved in the pride of Americans regarding their ability to cast as individuals. Pride of Americans regarding their ability to act as individuals on the one hand, and their tendency to act as members of ethnic groups on the other hand. Now, remember, this is from a supposedly Christian group of people. So, as Christians, the belief is not salvation through groups. It is not sin. You don't sin through the group. Salvation is personal, it is individual. So, why are they talking like this about the heart of man? As Christians, we understand through the word of God that the only way to for man's heart to be regenerated is not through policy, it's not through organizing, it's not through social action, it is through the regenerative power of believing on Christ and Christ alone. Salvation. It ain't none of this. Okay, so that's how you know something's up. But we ain't even got our big toe all in the water yet. Okay, hold on. All right, so America, wait, let me see. Oh, wait. I'm going to read it again. Especially must we understand the irony involved in the pride of Americans regarding their ability to act as individuals on one hand and their tendency to act as members of ethnic groups on the other hand. This is all an assumption. Okay? You don't really know this. This is just an assumption. In the tensions of this part of our history is revealed both the tragedy and the hope of human redemption in America. As Christians, the gospel is not bound by nations or by it is it has overcome all that. Okay, it's not bound by your social problems. It has overcome those problems. Okay, America has asked its Negro citizens to fight for opportunity as individuals, whereas at certain points in our history, what we have needed most have been opportunity for the whole group. Oh, really? Not just for selected and approved Negroes. Thus, in 1863, the slaves were made legally free as individuals. But the real question regarding personal and group power to maintain that freedom was pushed aside. So, what they're saying is you can't have individual power. You know that Holy Ghost power that we say we have as Christians, that personal salvation, that personal work that God did for us, that gives us power to do all kinds of things in the earth through Jesus Christ. No. You need group power. You didn't know that? You need group power. You don't need that individual salvation power stuff. What is that? That's for somebody else. That is not for the Black church. Hear me. They don't want your kind, your Christian Bible, your flat-footed Bible believing, born again, Jesus only Bible. They reject that Jesus. That's not the Jesus that they're after. Hear me good. Hear them good, rather. Okay, so he said the slaves, okay, that's not real power, right? So he says, thus in 1863, the slaves were made legally free as individuals, but the real question regarding personal and group power to maintain that freedom was pushed aside. Power at that time for a mainly rural people meant land and tools to work the land. In the words of Thaddeus Stevens, power meant 40 acres and a mule. But this power was not made available to the slaves. And we see the results today in the pushing of a landless peasantry off the farms into big cities, where they come in search mainly of the power to be free. What they find are only the formalities of unenforced legal freedom. So what they find is not true freedom. It's only the formalities of unenforced legal freedom. But see, that's what America offers you, legal freedom. Like this thing that they think white people have is like in their heads. Like white people don't have another set of laws that they get to live by. Anyway, that's what makes our country different. It is our legal setup, the legal framework. Okay. Oh, Daddy Mendoza, I hope you should listen, stick around. Why don't you click the link? And if you are, you seem very emphatic about what you believe, so click the link and prove me wrong of what I am saying. Amen, Mrs. Graves. We are all equal under the law. Okay, that's what it guarantees all Americans. It doesn't guarantee anything other than that. Oh, hey Carmen, what's up? All right, so listen, if you're just joining us, we're reading this 1966 document, the statement by National Committee of Negro Churchmen. This is a statement of a bunch of Black preachers who came together to partner with the idea of Black power. Okay, hear me good. This is a 1966 article in the New York Times of Black church, of Black pastors coming together saying, we are now partnering, we agree with the the sentiment of Black power. All right. What they find are only the formalities of enforced legal freedom. So we must ask, what is the nature of the power which we seek and need today? Power today is essentially organizational power. Oh, really? Oh, well, why didn't you just say so? It is not a thing lying about in the streets to be fought over. It is a thing which, in some measure, already belongs to Negroes and which must be developed by Negroes in relationship with the great resources of this nation. So it's not this thing, this power, it's not this thing just like lying in the streets to be fought over. It's a thing in which some measure already belongs to a Negro because that's intuitive, right? There, it is intuitive that you have, some type of self-agency, right? That's how you know that it is a violation when someone tries to enslave another person, because you realize that it goes against what God has given you. Let's see. But they say that this thing, it already belongs to Negroes, but it must be developed by Negroes in relationship to all these resources, in relationships to other people's stuff. Okay. All right. Getting power necessarily involves reconciliation. Now, this is where they try to smooth it over. We're going to try to iron out some of those wrinkles. We don't want it to sound too harsh. We don't want to be too honest. But thank you, Carmen, for for becoming a new member. That is so awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Let's see. So it says, we must be first reconciled to ourselves, lest we fail to recognize the resources we already have and upon which we can build. Sounds harmless. We must be reconciled to ourselves as persons and to ourselves as a historical group. Well, that's interesting, because that's not how God tells us to exist in the world. All right. This means we must find our way to a new, what is this? Wait, hold on. These are Christian pastors. Okay. Christian. This means we must find our way to a new self-image in which we can feel a normal sense of pride in self. Now, I don't think finding yourself, this new image sounds very much like what the enemy was presenting Eve and Adam in the garden. Don't you want to be something different? Don't you want to have different knowledge? Remake yourself, not in the image. Don't let Christ be Lord over your life and be made new through him. No, you got to renew yourself a different kind of way. Okay. They're not talking about your Jesus. We got to create this new self-image in which we can feel a normal sense of pride in self. Okay. Including our variety of skin color and the manifold textures of our hair. Wow. This is really deep. This is really deep stuff here. This is not superficial at all. Hair, skin, not superficial at all. As long as we are filled with hatred for ourselves, we will be unable to respect others. No, sir. As long as you are unregenerated, you won't be able to respect respect yourself and respect others. Okay. At the same time, if we are seriously concerned about power, then we must build upon that which we already have. Oh, I thought, wait, now so you do have power, but you're oppressed too. Okay. You do you. Okay. Black power is already present to some extent in the Negro church, in Negro fraternities and sororities, and in our professional associations, and in the opportunities afforded to Negroes who make decisions in some of the integrated organizations of our society. That's so bizarre that you think you're oppressed and you got all this. But anyway, we'll keep reading. We understand the reasons by which these limited forms of Black power have been rejected by some of our people. Too often, the Negro church has stirred its members away from the reign of God in this world to a distorted and complacent view of an otherworldly conception of God's power. We commit ourselves as churchmen to make more meaningful in the life of our institution our conviction that Jesus Christ reigns in the here and now, as well as in the future he brings in upon us. We shall therefore use more of the resources of our churches in working for human justice in the places of social change and upheaval where our master is already at work. Wow. At the same time, we would urge that Negro social and professional organizations develop new roles for engaging. Okay, listen. So yeah, we know that Jesus, he's for the here and now, he's for the thereafter, and but we need something new. We need to be made new, and that ain't really working for us no more. It is, Mrs. Graves. You got it. This is right when James Cone. This is 1966 when this is written. So he's bubbling right now. 68 is when he really like comes on the scene. He's writing stuff, but I don't think he has become prominent yet. But I could be wrong. But listen to this. It says, at the same time, we would urge that Negro social and professional organizations develop new roles for engaging the problem of equal opportunity and put less time into the frivolity, I'm saying that wrong, of idle chatter and social waste. We must not apologize for the existence of this form of group power, for we have been oppressed as a group, not as individuals. We will not find our way out of that oppression until both we and America accept the need for Negro Americans as well as for Jews, Italian, Poles, and white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, among others, to have to have and to wield group power. I'm going to skip down to the end. This is their last statement here. I think that's the fourth part of the article. To the mass media, power and truth. The ability or inability of all people in America to understand the upheavals of our day depends greatly on the way power and truth operate in the mass media during the mass media. During the Southern demonstrations for civil rights, you men of the communications industry performed an invaluable service for the entire country by revealing plainly to our ears and eyes the ugly truth of a brutalizing system of overt discrimination and segregation. If it was so brutal, I don't think you would have needed a mass media to show that, because people would have felt it. You didn't need mass media for slavery. Okay. Many of you were mauled and injured, and it took courage for you to stick with the task. You were instruments of change and not merely purveyors of unrelated facts. You were able to do this by dint of personal courage and by reason of the power of national news agencies which supported you. Now, I thought that they told us that this was a move of God. This was a move, the civil rights movement was a move of the Lord, and but for the Lord that was on their side, they wouldn't have done it. But that's not what they say. They are not giving credit to Jesus. They're not giving credit to God, okay? Let's see. Just as therefore nothing is now more important than that you look for a variety of sources of truth in order you need a variety of sources of truth in order. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I missed something. Today, however, your task and ours is more difficult. The truth that needs revealing today is not so clear-cut in its outlines, nor is there a national consensus to help you form relevant points of view. Therefore, nothing is now more important than that you look for a variety of sources of truth in order that the limited perspectives of all of us might be corrected. Just as you related to a broad spectrum of people in Mississippi instead of relying only on police records. So and establishment figures. So must you operate in New York City, Chicago, and Cleveland. The power to support you in this endeavor is present in our country. It must be searched out. We desire to use our limited influence to help relate you to the variety of experience in the Negro community so that limited controversies are not blown up into the final truth about us. The fate of this country is, to no small extent, dependent upon how you interpret the crises upon us so that human truth is disclosed and human needs are met. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Black church coming into agreement with Black power. They have they got their 4-point process, and they're like, here is how we're going to do this, and we are with you. That is what this article says. We're not done yet. We're still just beginning. Take a look at this.
Earlier this month, over 700 churchmen from all denominations gathered in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Gateway Hotel to discuss the question of the church's part in the Black liberation movement. Keynote speaker Vincent Harding of Spelman College summed it up this way.
A time when we cannot afford the luxury of jibing each other. I wonder if we know and if we're ready to deal with and face the fact that there are a lot of black folks who can't believe that there is a Lord, and certainly not a precious one. Because they say, if he is, then why are our hands so tired and empty and bloody and cold? What kind of precious Lord is this? There is a significant stream of thought in the black community which suggests that it is totally anachronistic, totally contradictory to have black churchmen. But there are lots of people in the black community who just can't believe that the two go together, that you can be black and have anything to do with church.
What?
That is not Negro or colored, you see, but black, ideologically speaking.
Say what now? Now I know that all this stuff that I've been saying, these people been telling me, Quisha, you wrong. The black church it's an institution, and it's needed, and it's been around forever, and it only started because we couldn't worship with the white people, and all of this yada yada yada. Y'all was telling me I was wrong. The man said it himself. I'm going to play it back for you.
over 700 churchmen from all denominations gathered in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Gateway Hotel to discuss the question of the church's part in the Black liberation movement.
Over 700 Black pastors gathered in St. Louis, Missouri, to discuss Black liberation theology and the Black church. Okay.
Keynote speaker Vincent Harding of Spelman College summed it up this way.
Oh, the university.
Time when we cannot afford the luxury of jibing each other. I wonder if we know and if we're ready to deal with and face the fact that there are a lot of Black folks who can't believe that there is a Lord, and certainly not a precious one.
There's a lot of Black folks who cannot believe that there's a Lord, and certainly not a precious one. You know, precious Lord, take my hand. Thomas Dorsey, you know, yeah. They don't believe that.
Because they say if he is, then why are our hands so tired and empty and bloody and cold? What kind of precious Lord is this?
What kind of precious Lord is this?
There is a significant stream of thought in the Black community which suggests that it is totally anachronistic, totally contradictory to have Black churchmen. That there are lots of people in the Black community who just can't believe that the two go together. That you can be Black and have anything to do with church. That is not Negro or colored, you see, but Black, ideologically speaking.
Ideologically speaking. They're not talking about you being Black in color. They're talking about you being Black in ideology. You have to be Black in your ideological way of thinking. Let me get some of y'all's comments so far. Demario Reyes says, found our way to a new self-image. Christ made me a new creation. Amen. And he did. Hi, Karen. Jenny AV9, sorry. Humans always be getting themselves into trouble flirting with pride, okay? That's a fact. Yes, Miss Carmen. Hello, hello. Mrs. Sirius says, you scared to go to church? No. Oh, or is that what he was saying? I'm going back. So yeah, I might not be understanding. Uh-oh, Megan had to put homeboy in timeout. Let's see. Hey, DT, what's going on? Let's see. What else? Jenny says, is this from the 60s? Yes, 1966. Mrs. Graves said, yeah, sounds like James Condrell. Indeed it is. Demaria C, they're going with that social change garbage. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Y'all just wait. It's just, there's more. DT says, this is how we ended up with race hustlers in the church like Jamal Bryant. This is a fact. Martin Luther King, Jamal Bryant, Minister Dominique Alexander with Carmelo Anthony. All of these Raphael Warnock, Reverend Doctors. Whenever you see Reverend Doctor, now I'm like, what's up, Reverend Doctor? It's always a red flag. Let's see what else we got. DT says the extra frustrating part of the church taking this direction is that they used legitimate oppression of the time to exploit the masses into believing that God was on their side in this approach. The way that they're talking, I don't know if you were here when we were reading the article. In the article, they're like, we got all this stuff. We got a lot of power. We just want yours too. You know, like go rewind it a little bit. They were saying we got all this stuff. I don't think it was as oppressed as they are trying to make it sound. Like these people, they're at Spelman. This is 1966. This is not 1866. They're in college or at Spelman. They got all of these different things that they've had since the early 1900s and built upon. Let's see. Let's see. Megan says God didn't speak to the Israelites for 400 years, and he is speaking about God isn't there for them for a couple hundred years. He clearly don't know how I got worse. I think I'm coming in on a conversation that I don't fully know. Oh yes, Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes. Yes, exactly. But I want to say hello to my good friend, Mr. Teach Him Chuck Littleton. Chuck, I texted you. I say, yo, we got him. I was like, you should have saw me. Antonio was probably looking at me like, woman, would you calm down? I cannot believe what I found. Were you able to hear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard
Thoughts.
it. Yeah, I heard it, and I've read that statement before.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I'm surprised by, and maybe you didn't know, so I'm going to share it with you in the audience. That of course, this was 67, so
66.
66. Sorry about that. Yeah, and so of course, none other than the illustrious Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was asked to be a signator on the Black Power statement as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
what happened though? What happened, Chuck?
Well, he the story goes according to his one of his top lawyers, or his main lawyer, Clarence B. Jones. I believe this is how this information has come down to us. But Stanley Levison, King's major financier, backer, financially speaking, and top advisor, speechwriter, ghostwriter, etc., warned him against it. This was the late 60s were approaching. This was a few years after the March on Washington, and King was beginning to ramp up his radicalism. He was becoming more overtly radical, and this was to the chagrin of Stanley Levison, who was telling him, "Hey, now is not the time. You must be a bit more hesitant and disciplined." And King was growing ever more impatient with this. He was ready to come full-fledged. But Stanley advised King against it, told him not to sign it, and he didn't. But there is footage of there's a press conference that exists, and you may be able to just simply find it on YouTube, where King, gives one of those real crafty roundabout endorsements, but not an endorsement. He likes to curry favor with radicals. He likes to cozy up to them, while at the same time pretending that he's not one of them. But again, constantly and consistently makes excuses for them. And so King was involved with that as well. And I do not believe it is coincidental that what you played there with all these pastors coming together at what was it, Spelman? You said it was Spelman College?
Well, the Vincent Harding, who was the lead, the host, I guess, the speaker, he was from Spelman, but they were in St. Louis at the St. Louis Gateway Hotel. That's where the conference was.
Okay. Yeah, I was unaware of where that footage was being shot. I wasn't sure if it was at Spelman. Again, I found it a little bit weird if it had been at Spelman, because of course, being an all girls institution. But of course, by then, the HBCUs had really begun to fall by the wayside. Spelman, chief among them. Howard, of course, Howard is where none other than Stokely Carmichael would graduate from. I don't remember the precise year. If I had to guess, I would say 64 maybe. But after he graduated from Howard, he began to take up an ever bigger role in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and he and John Lewis would subsequently butt heads internally for who would control SNCC moving forward. The late John Lewis portrayed himself as a religious man, but of course, he wasn't. John Lewis was another Highlander school alum, and so he was trained in the art of agitation through nonviolence. But John Lewis was, I guess, politically crafty enough to know that you at least have to play the role of the religious figure. All the while, there were elements within SNCC that were overtly anti-religion, not just non-religious or simply agnostic or what have you, but they were hostile to religion, being the Marxists that they were. Stokely Carmichael, of course, chief among them. And so this is when you begin to see this split occur, and many of the old guard from within SNCC were ran out. But I say that, and I bring up Spelman because a major figure within the movement during the 1960s, and it was a major architect in the civil rights movement in the 1960s, was none other than Howard Zinn. And Howard Zinn had taught at Spelman for, I want to say, approximately 10 years. But by the time this statement went forward, Howard Zinn he was gone. I think he began to teach up in Boston, if my memory serves me correctly, but he was at Spelman from sometime during the 1950s up until like 1963, when he was subsequently fired from Spelman for simply being a nuisance to the administrators, because he had turned what was once a conservative Christian college into a den and a hotbed of radical Marxist activism.
And this was John Lewis?
No, this was Howard Zinn.
Oh, Howard Zinn. Okay, gotcha. That's right. Yeah. I found this paper, this clip, and it talked about King. You need to.
No, I was just talking to my daughter. She said what she had to say.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, so I found this. It is let's see if I can get it bigger. It had a part in here. I should have clicked it, but it was like saying how they were talking to Martin Luther King about this, coming together.
Yeah.
And he was like, he said, dang it, I wish I could. Let me see, hopefully I can find it. Oh man. But basically he was he was like, well, I've been used before, so he basically said, like, I'm not going to come right out and support you, but I've been used before, so it's all good. I'll be used again. Basically, is like what he was saying.
This is what King is saying.
Yes, in I believe it was in this document. But hold on one second. We have a guest here who wants to chime in. So let's see. Hello.
Hi, how you doing? So
Good. Are you?
I'm good.
Wait, hold on one second. Are you a Christian?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what do you have on the topic? We're talking about.
Go ahead.
We're talking about the Black church and Black power coming together and abandoning the true gospel of Jesus Christ and reimagining, I guess is a good word, of this new gospel, the social gospel.
Okay, well, you know, I first, wow, that's a heavy topic. Um, and one of the things, I'll say off the, you know, it's really about, for me, it's really about how do I go about exploitation in the church, and how society and all of the Black empowerment, piece, it has interrupted the church, because there's a big turnabout now in the church, and I really have to stay with the church, of Jesus Christ. I mean, I study spirituality, woo woo woo. You know, I'll listen to the podcasts about, you know, Black Power and Martin Luther King. Everybody made the decision. When I heard that about Martin Luther King, I didn't know that. But at the same time, he was exploited. All those guys were. That was the game. Exploitation was the game that these people played. And so I want to, and so the other thought is that this is always been my comment. You know, when Aretha Franklin's dad allowed the studio to come in, and the TV and the radio to come in and record Aretha Franklin singing, that was the first. I mean, one of the first in my era. That was the first mistake, and I say mistake for lack of a better word right now, because I haven't thought it all out. I mean, with you guys in your context, but see, when they went in there, and when other people went in there and started filming, soon as they see something that they could exploit, they start exploiting it, right? And they start using it to their advantage. They, you know, the other Christian world is way far ahead of us.
So when you say other, are you meaning like white people? Is that what you mean? Or
well, yeah. I'm speaking more of the white culture that does, because if you look at Jimmy Graham and all of the rest of his little crew, they never liked Black people anyway. Now, I'm trying not to be controversial. I'm not trying to be super controversial, but yes, the other white Christians, because there's a whole host of things that have happened. And if we don't come together and decide this, we are standing on the wings of Jesus Christ.
So let me ask you then. So I don't believe that the churches were exploited. I believe that they were infiltrated, and they came into agreement with it. I don't think that they were being duped. I think let me rephrase that. I think some of them were being duped, but I think a lot of them agreed with this combining of Black power and the Bible, the social gospel, to say it a better way. Martin Luther King agreed with it, and he took this idea, he further pushed it into the church. It was already something that was in America. It was already something that was in other countries. It used the race narrative to prop itself onto, and it was in the church. So I don't believe that it was an exploitation. I believe it was participation.
Well, you know, I mean, I have bit off. I have been a participant of some things that I thought. I have been a participant of some things. An idea that somebody brought that I thought was a great deal. You know, that I bought into it, right? I bought into it like everybody else. They laid the spiel down. I bought into it.
Mhm.
Well, after I got into it, and I'm doing my thing, and all of a sudden things radically changed. And I said, "Oh, we." So naturally, I had to back out. I had to
Let me
back out
let
because
me
I
let
said,
I want Chuck to come in and respond.
"Okay,
Yeah,
Go ahead,
how
Chuck.
you doing, Lorraine? I just wanted to remark on this idea that MLK, for example, and he wasn't the only one, but
mm-hmm,
this idea that MLK was used and that he was exploited and that he had his fame and notoriety and his prestige as a pastor, his ability to preach, such and so forth, was exploited. That is being too kind to Dr. King. He was not exploited. He was a full participant, fully conscious participant in the subversion of the church. He knew exactly what he was doing, and this isn't me trying to provoke an argument or anything like that. I'm just commenting on what you said, just for the sake of the audience. For those who don't know, MLK was reared and raised in the tradition of the political theology or the social gospel. This is why his father had his name changed to Martin instead of Michael, because he wanted his son to take after the Protestant reformer, because he wanted his father or his son to be somewhat of a theological, if you will, revolutionary, which is why he changed his name. And it's not a small coincidence that Karl Marx himself was appreciative of Martin Luther as well, not because of Martin Luther being some strict gung ho about the Christian faith. Of course, famous for his uh, rebellion against what it was that the Catholic Church was doing as a former Catholic himself, but he viewed Martin Luther to be one step toward the complete abolition of Christian hegemony. And so King was a willing participant up until the very end of his life. Everyone knew, for example, the kind of person that Stokely Carmichael was and what he represented. And in the last year, I
mm,
would say, of Dr. King's life, he was trying very, very desperately to get Stokely Carmichael under his influence, because he wanted to use Stokely Carmichael's growing political popularity to help further his Marxist agenda that he believed that he could lead from the pulpit. And this is evidenced by the fact that during one of King's last round trip, he would kind of go around the world, go around the country, making appearances and making speeches and so on. There's actually a declassified FBI transcript of MLK in a one-on-one conversation with both Stokely Carmichael and H. Rap Brown, where King is requesting that Stokely and H. Rap, that the two of them join forces with him, and that they pretty much take orders and dictates from him. There was no attempt to distance himself from Carmichael. He very much wanted Carmichael to be a part of his political and social coalition. So I just wanted to put that out there, that King was not used. He knew exactly what he was doing, and his goal and purpose was to deliberately subvert the church.
oh, to subvert the. What do you think about then? What do you think about Bernice? What do you think she's doing?
Bernie, what's that? What is his daughter,
Bernice,
right?
his daughter, his daughter.
Yeah, I've heard some of the statements and things like that she's been making lately, and I mean, she seems to be. There's no other way to put it. I mean, she seems to be a chip off the old block. I mean, this is what the King family. Yeah, this is what the King family is doing, and this is what the King family has done. The widow of King, of course, Coretta. was far more intense in her radicalism than King was. After his assassination, there was no attempt at trying to hide their their idolatry, their heresy, their blasphemy. There was no. She didn't care by that time. Like I said, joining arms with the likes of individuals like Angela Davis,
Mhm.
a criminal, a fugitive, a domestic terrorist. She was in line and in league with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. This is Angela Davis. And in the wake of King's assassination, you had the Southern Leadership Conference, which at that time was being led by Reverend Ralph Abernathy.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, Reverend Ralph Abernathy helped aid her in her legal defense. It was Ralph Abernathy and the SCLC that helped try and rehabilitate her reputation after her acquittal in the early 70s. There was a press conference, the two of them, Angela Davis and Ralph Abernathy, sitting side by side. And Angela Davis is openly admitting to being a communist and saying that she appreciates the fact that Abernathy and the SCLC did not see fit to distance themselves from her because of her membership to the Communist Party. And so this is just the legacy of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. King, his entire family. I mean, this is what the King family has been about since the days of Dr. King's grandfather, even, who was a
Yeah.
pivotal
Yeah.
social activist and who was in the 1910s under the surveillance of the Woodrow Wilson led government at that time for being a bit of a rabble rouser in Atlanta at that time as well. So this wasn't anything new. The King family has been on the federal government's under their watch and on the radar of federal surveillance since before King was even born.
So where do we go from here then?
Um,
Where are you going from here?
So what the purpose of having these debates and discussions is to show people, particularly Black people who profess themselves to be Christians, that when they say Black and Christian, they're not talking about you being Black in pigment. They are talking about an ideology that they want you to ascribe to. And so we're saying we reject all of that. If it's not biblical, we reject it. We don't believe that just because we happen to be Black that we are oppressed, because our King says that we are more than a conqueror, that we can overcome the world because he has overcome the world. So we don't come into agreement with what the world says about us. We want to stick to the Bible and what God says about us. He is the one that defines our identity. He is where we get our identity from. And he is the one who tells us how we should live out this life. And it is not through tearing down the government, begging and pleading the government for, every crumb on your table, and literally selling out the church in order for you to have this worldly power, when the Holy Spirit lives inside of you that is far more powerful. Why would I trade the Holy Spirit power for some earthly power? And so we just reject all of that, and we believe in the Bible. We don't, and so that's where we're going to God. So
Yeah.
what about you? Where are you? Where do you see yourself in this?
Well, I was just walking down and I was coming home from chemo, and I was thinking, and I was thinking about, and what came to mind was, when you clean your house and you don't put nothing back in the house that is going to keep the house clean, like sweeping the floor when the trash falls, then you're going to bring seven more dirty spirits in the house. Now it's out of kind of context, but because I was thinking about how dirty the church is, and how, no, not how dirty, but how secular let me take dirty off, how secular the church has become. And I think it started from I seen some boys break dancing, just back to the break dancing and the meme dancing in the church, and it was so, the body was gyrating in a way that I just said, okay, I can't do that, I can't get with that. I try to involve the young people, but that's not a part of where I come from. And so I stay with Jesus Christ. I stay with the Bible. I'm of Jesus Christ. And so I've been looking for a preacher, right? A minister to just watch every day. And I've watched a lot of them. And I've stuck with, he's pretty controversial, but I stick with Reverend Steve Darby from Kentucky, Ohio. And he died about 7 years. Well, I think a lot of people, I've been seeing that, I don't think he's controversial at all. I love this guy. I love everything this guy says. But a lot of people, I'm beginning to see, I go back and listen to his tapes, his sermons from the time he died, which was 7 years ago, back to 12 years. And everything he preached about, from 12 years down to his 7th year before he died, was case on straight. It's going on right now today. So so my mission has been in my head, not anywhere else, but my mission in my head is how can I build that type of church with him, to study under his old ministry and bring his old ministry back up to date. Because these guys, the church is way, I say that because I grew up in AME. I grew up in AME. And I went to church. The last time I went to my church that I was raised in, they have a sign on the door. The preacher has a sign on the door that says, "We stand with our Jew brothers and sisters." Which is our neighbors, which all the Jews own the whole neighborhood around the church. The church could have bought it 60 years ago before anyway, that's another story, Tanya. Get back to it. Okay, so anyway, they stand with the Jews. I said, okay, now they not who they say they are. That's what the Bible says.
All right, so Miss Lorraine, I think I see where you're going, but I would encourage you to forget all of that. Honestly, go to the one who made you. The God of the Bible is a personal God. He says, if you ask me for wisdom, I will give it to you liberally, freely. I'm going to give it if you ask me. I would strongly suggest that you wring your heart before the Lord. Ask God to reveal to you what he would have for you to do in the earth at this time. What is what are you to do right now? If you learn who God is, his character, how he moves, what he does, what he thinks, that you will instantly know when something is not correct. God will never leave you, never forsake you. He's not going to allow somebody to lead you in the wrong direction. But if you aren't aware of his word, if you don't have his word in you, you won't know when somebody is deceiving you. You won't be able to tell. So God says, do not be ignorant of Satan's devices. Yes, which devices are thoughts and words and schemes and plots and plans. So, but in order to not be ignorant of them, you have to know what God says so you can discern which one is which. And so I would strongly suggest to forget, when all the churches and all the pastors and all the whatever, when they have gone astray, Jesus, the Bible will stand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to, you can, we have the ability to go to God of the God of the universe for ourselves, and he's personal enough to talk with us. So I would just suggest, get in your Bible, Miss Lorraine, get in your word,
Well,
girl.
I get it. I mean, I'll thank you for the word. Thank you so much. I'll receive that.
Amen.
One of the things that kind of is not kind of, but I do concern myself with I really feel like there has to be we have to set. I feel that there has to be a board, committee, lack of a better word, group conscious. We have to keep coming together, laying some, just having a conversation. Having a conversation. Let me say this.
What it sounds like is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you think that if people who share the same pigment, if we come together, that we're going to be able to, as a group, do a particular thing. But here's the problem with that. Just because we share the same skin color, and this is what the social gospel teaches, the Black power people, the Black liberation theology, they teach that because we share in similar pigment, that means what we believe is similar. But that's not true. Just because we all share a similar, amount of melanin, but that doesn't mean that we all believe the same thing. And so that's why the idea of the collective coming together as any other collective than the body of Christ. That's our collective.
Body of Christ.
We don't have no other collective than the body of Christ as Christians. Now the world can do, we can come together as the Black liberation, the Black this, the Black that. But that's not how we move as Christians. At least it should not be how we move, because our body, our collective group, is the body of Christ. Yeah. So I'm gonna let you go, Miss Lorraine. But thank you so much for coming up and chatting with us. And you are in our prayers. Read your Bible, okay?
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, I pretty much read it, but your interpretation is not that. I don't believe my interpretation is that key.
That's why I don't. The Holy Spirit. That's all you need. I know it sounds so simple, but God, He don't make it complicated.
Where's it now? What's this little button over here on the left?
I got you, Miss Lorraine. Have a good night.
Okay,
thank you.
You too. All right, let me see. What is it?
God bless Miss Lorraine. Boy, that thing, it'll have you gripped.
I was laughing. Quisha, back it up to the top. I don't know where what's his name went. What was his name? The guy who called you an idiot to start the show?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Maybe he didn't come in and maybe he didn't give himself time to get the lay of the land. I don't know, but I'm thinking in my head, I'm saying, bruh, maybe if you came in so eager to argue and fight, maybe if you took your time and observed and listened for a minute or two, he would have realized that, that's what you're trying to do, is to clear up all the fuss and all the nonsense and all of the division within the body. You're criticizing the folks who are the source of the division within the church, and not just, never mind division within the church, because they are their own separate church, and they're trying to bastardize and take over the church, and to get people off, focused on to what they're talking about, which is, again, a fake gospel, a phony gospel, and a non-existent God. So I just thought that was funny. I said, dang, man.
I know. Here, I got something for you.
He agrees with you. He probably doesn't even realize it. He just came in ready to argue.
He probably don't. I got something for you to watch this.
What you got?
The most controversial ministers at the conference was Reverend Albert Klieg Jr.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, dang, I didn't clip the whole thing. Sorry, my bad, y'all. I'm sitting here thinking we about to go in. Hold on.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's an abundance of
Of the Shrine of the Black Madonna Church in Detroit, Michigan.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a Christian black nationalist. I believe in black power, and I believe in black nationalism, and I'm also Christian, so, you put them all together. The type of Christianity that I preach, which is essentially a reinterpretation of the Old Testament, reinterpretation of the first three Gospels, which...
Wait, what did he say?
Reinterpretation.
Of what? The Old
Old
Testament and the New Testament, the first, is that what he said?
Three. I don't know about John. He said the first three.
Oh, I'm trying to, because they told me, Chuck, and I think they told you too, that what we were saying was not true.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to check. Here we go.
Is based on the basic historic fact that Israel was a black nation fighting for freedom, and that Jesus was a black militant revolutionary leader. That kind of Christianity is compatible with black nationalism and black power. But essentially, we've got to make a people. That's why I think the church is so important. We're not a people. We're fragmented. We're divided. We got all kind of different ideas. Each black person is trying to get something for himself. He's trying to make the white man think he's a good one, so the white man will do something for him. Now, as long as we're fragmented in that fashion, where we're not a people working together, trying to do something together, we can't get any kind of power. So essentially, we've got to come together as a people, and then as a people, we try to do the things that have to be done.
The ministers were briefed by economic experts on ways in which the church could catch up with the Black Revolution.
We in America are like black people in a capitalistic nation without any capital. We got to get this capital if we're going to own the institutions to run our own nation. And the church can play a critical role here. Another place the church can play a critical role, there are lots of people in our community who will go outside and buy elsewhere, leaking off purchasing power. We have to use our pulpits as a fulcrum for educating people about the services that brothers can perform. And we ought to realize that some of our businessmen, by operating our own communities, pay a racial tax.
Like I said, listen to them. They're consulting economists. They want to be historians and anthropologists and economists and all these other ists and experts. All in the name of what? This is the gospel. This is Jesus. Jesus was a black revolutionary, a black Israelite nationalist, a black Jewish nationalist of some kind, who was, of course, rebelling against the oppression of the Roman Empire. And we are to take his example and use it as fuel, as fodder to support this notion that we ought to join in on the revolutionary struggle. But they say these things, Quisha, all the while. For all of you who say, I myself, Chad, I'm a part of Chad's research team. People say that, well, we don't know what we're talking about, because when these people are asked outright if they're Marxists, they say no.
They say no.
Excuse me? Really? But you say all of these things indicating that is exactly what you are. But when I ask you outright, when you deny it, or if you deny it, then I'm supposed to take that to the bank.
Did you hear what he said?
Yeah, I
he
exactly
said we got to use the pulpit as a fulcrum.
As a fulcrum, yeah.
That's a prop.
Yeah, it reminds me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna jump off the live in a second, because I got my wife. She was supposed to pick my daughter up from somewhere, but she's not feeling well, so I'm gonna do it for her.
Okay.
I'm gonna come back and join up with you. It won't take me that long. I'll be there and back in 20 some odd minutes, something like that. If you're still alive, I'll jump back on. But it reminds me of something. He wasn't black, but set King aside, set Albert Klieg and Cohn, a lot of these other individuals aside for a second. Probably the most infamous proponent of liberation theology was none other than the infamous Jim Jones. Jim Jones said outright, he said that because he, as a young person, he was fascinated by the Bible, fascinated by biblical stories, and he was kind of obsessed, or he kind of fetishized the role of the pastor because he understood at a very young age that with that position came great power and came great influence. And once Jim Jones was turned on to Marxism, he asked himself, and there's an actual interview, there's a recording of him. I don't know if he was being interviewed, but I heard the recording with my own two ears. It wasn't AI, it was genuinely Jim Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he had a thought, he had an idea. He was asking himself, how do I get people to buy into Marxism? He said, I got it. I'll use the church. And I said, I'm not paraphrasing him. I'm not
Wow.
paraphrasing him. You can probably find the quote if you looked it up. Jim Jones said that I was asking myself, how am I going to get people to buy into Marxism? And then I said, aha, I can use the church. That's exactly what he said. And remember the quote I used from Jean-Paul Sartre when he talked about the importance of Marxism as a philosophy and how it has shaped our modern world so much so that it cannot be removed from its perch as the central a prism by which all forms of human thought must go through, must traverse through, must filter its way through. And so as a result, instead of denying, talking about many of these Christians, Black Christians, instead of denying it, they simply do a bait and switch and redirect the debate and redirect the conversation by attempting to claim that their inspiration does not come from Marx, but to quote Dr. King, my inspiration, this was a quote, my inspiration does not come from Marx, it comes from a man named Jesus, unquote.
Mm.
While all the while being a Marxist. They will simply say it's not Marxist, it's Christian, right? But it's again, it's a bait and switch. It's what they do. But yeah, Keisha, I'm gonna come back and try to join up with you later. And if you're still on
Okay.
this topic of Black Power, I want to
Mm-hmm.
dive into this a little bit more because a couple of
Mm-hmm.
shows ago, somebody questioned you about Black Power. Someone in the comment section, and we keep trying to educate and put this information out there what Black Power means. How does one seize Black Power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Black, right? As you heard Klieg there, Detroit's own Klieg,
Yep.
founder of the Church of the Black Madonna. You hear him talking about, we all must come together, we all must do this, and we all must do that, and we have to have a collective goal and a collective plan. And so the question then, well, what do you call these people? What do you call this group? Well, you call them Black. You see, that's the new tagline that is
Mm-hmm.
used to designate all of these individuals who are no longer Negroes, because that term represents the old shuffling Uncle Tom go along to get along Negro, right? The Negro that built not just the Black Wall Street, which is the Greenwood district in Oklahoma, but I'm talking about the hundreds of prosperous Black neighborhoods across
Come
the
on
country.
now.
They didn't want to do that anymore. They wanted to be activists and revolutionaries now, because
Mm-hmm.
they realized that, and this was white communists, Black communists alike, they realized by about the 1940s, 1950s that capitalism was working, and they had to step up and do something about it. And so what they did was they tried to separate the children, to separate the youth from their parents. And so in many respects, the civil rights movement, the liberation theology movement was a youth movement that was meant to, again, separate one generation, the baby boomers, to separate the baby boomers from that World War II generation. So we'll get into Black Power, like you say, and what that's about, what that all means, and who popularized it, who came up with the terminology.
Yeah.
Very, very,
I'm
very
gonna be
interesting.
playing some more clips. So if you can pop them on or
I'll,
can
yeah,
listen while we
yeah,
talk.
I'll be listening, and if I may promise you, this is my last thing. I like to give a little bit of context because I mentioned Howard Zinn earlier. And here's something that Howard Zinn wrote. It goes back to what I just said about capitalism working. And this is what really upset the Marxists in the 1940s and 50s. And they said after World War II, they came up with a new game plan. Here's something Howard Zinn, the author of the A People's History, right? One of the most influential Marxists of the 20th century. Howard Zinn said in a 1959 article for Harper's Monthly, this was his interpretation of the events going on at the time in Atlanta when he was teaching down at Spelman. For all of you who think that Black folks had a problem in the 1950s and they needed this movement, they didn't. There was no oppression going on. That was a lie. Here's what Howard Zinn had to say. Mind you, his communist bona fides are not to be questioned. Here's what he wrote in Harper's Monthly in 1959 in its August issue. He says, racial barriers were coming down in the post-war years, thanks in part to capitalism. Southerners' concerns with profit-making, peaceful coexistence, manners, law and order were naturally leading to improved race relations and increased voting power and economic power for Blacks. When a bold Negro student would take a seat in a white section of a bus, no one said anything, and Black bus drivers were accepted. Growing Negro purchasing power meant that at Rich's department store in Atlanta, Black women tried on and purchased the same clothes as white women. And that white salesmen sometimes addressed Negro customers with "yes, sir." White men made deliveries to the back doors of homes of affluent Negro lawyers. And white employees of a contractor dug ditches on the campus of a Negro university. It was working. Black folks were prosperous, and there were white people in the South that were serving them and referring to them in terms of "yes, sir, no, sir." This was Howard Zinn's observation in 1959. But I'll be back, Quisha.
Yeah, they think we were oppressed forever and that we didn't even have a voice and all this other stuff. But okay, see you. All right. Dirk Jensen, he said, welcome, hello. He says, what kind of Christian channel is this? We are a Bible believing channel. We believe the word of God. We reject Black liberation theology. We reject any ideas that are not Bible, that are not Bible based. Hi, Ryan. Hello. He says, my God, where does he get this information? What information? There's a lot been said. Let me play you guys this another clip from this conversation. Let's see. I thought. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Oops. Sorry. 1 second, y'all. Go ahead and hit that like button and share this video out if you have not done so already. Let's see. That one. Here we go.
Church can play a significant role in building the pride, in setting up the organizational structures that are necessary to control the Black ghetto.
Did you hear that? The church can play a significant role in setting up, the Black community. Here, let's play that again.
The church can play a significant role in building the pride, in setting up the organizational structures that are necessary to control the Black ghetto.
The organizational structures that are necessary to control the Black ghetto. So they're using the church, like the man before him said, as a prop. They don't believe the same Jesus you believe. They believe another gospel. These people are wicked teachers. They are false teachers, false prophets, false preachers. They just use Jesus, Black, and these and these words to hide and conceal their Marxist ideology. You cannot be Black and Christian. Can't do it, because those are two separate and different worldviews, to separate and different ideologies. Ryan, what are you talking about? Hence why who blew up the churches?
In formulating programs and putting money into these programs, the church can play a significant role in doing all of them. But if the church doesn't play a significant role, the revolution is going on. The revolution is not going to stop. Brothers and sisters in the street are not going to wait to see whether the church plays a significant role or not. The revolution is going on. The church can either step in and guide and lead and help, or the church can die.
A racial slur.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? The church can step in. You can either get on board or get out. But either way, we're taking over this thing. You can either ride this train with us, or you got to go. We're taking over the church anyway. And the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. These people are wicked people. Yes, DT says proof that this kind of black ideology is that there is a church on every corner of black neighborhoods, and yet the degeneracy and de-evolution of their values have never been lower, because they don't believe in the true gospel. They believe in the collective, all that kind of stuff. Hey, Katie, no, the church should not be used for politics. I don't believe that the church should be used for politics at all. I believe that the church, the members of the body of Christ should participate in politics, because this is how, these laws are going to govern us. So yes, we absolutely should participate, but I don't think the church should be used for politics. No. Let's see. Ryan says, who was the only people blowing up churches? Let me guess. Black people. What is that? I don't know. What does that have to do with anything? What is that? What does that mean? Mrs. Graves says, it's been a revolution for 70 years instead of sin, redemption, repentance, salvation, shame for sinful actions and behavior. Okay. That's what they want. That is what they don't want. Sin. They don't want to accept that sin has been dealt with by Jesus. They don't want his free gift of redemption and salvation. And they definitely don't want to repent. And they do not feel shame for their sinful actions and behavior. They don't want our God. They don't want our Jesus. They want to use Jesus, the real, true, and living God, for their Marxist revolutionary purposes. I don't know how much more they can tell you. They're literally saying it for all of you who don't believe what we have been telling you.
By a waitress in the hotel dining room caused the ministers to caucus for over 4 hours to determine a course.
See whether the church plays a significant role or not. The revolution is going on. The church can either step in and guide and lead and help, or the church can die.
A racial slur by a waitress in the hotel dining room caused the ministers to caucus for over 4 hours to determine a course of action. The result...
A racial slur. So somebody said some words to you that you don't like, caused them to caucus for over 4 hours. You didn't have nothing else to do. A racial slur? Yeah, that's you define freedom as being able to control other people. That's how these people define freedom. Exactly. 4 hours for a word. Not the gospel, not the word, but a word. You won't even spend 4 hours at church. You will not even spend 4 hours at church. You don't even like to spend 2. The American church, we looking at our watch 30 minutes in, right after worship. We like, time to go. 4 hours over a word. Thank you. Man, crazy.
It was a traditional sit-in the hotel lobby, the kind that made Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. famous as an apostle of nonviolence. But Martin Luther King is dead, and many say nonviolence died with him. Indeed, the whole question of church leadership in the liberation struggle has been openly challenged by many, particularly the activists.
Wow, wow, wow. Hold on. If you missed it before, I want to play this one again because I know people are coming in, but this one it says it all right here.
Earlier this month, over 700 churchmen from all denominations gathered in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Gateway Hotel to discuss the question of the church's part in the Black liberation movement. Keynote speaker Vincent Harding of Spelman College summed it up this way.
Time when we cannot afford the luxury of jibing each other. I wonder if we know and if we're ready to deal with and face the fact that there are a lot of black folks who can't believe that there is a Lord, and certainly not a precious one. Because they say if he is, then why are our hands so tired and empty and bloody and cold? What kind of precious Lord is this? There is a significant stream of thought in the black community which suggests that it is totally anachronistic, totally contradictory to have black churchmen. But there are lots of people in the black community who just can't believe that the two go together, that you can be black and have anything to do with church. That is not Negro or colored, you see, but black.
See, it's a distinction because Negro and colored was where, like Chuck was just saying, that's when progress was being made because you weren't focused on your skin color. You was focused on providing for your family, doing what makes you productive in society. But when you became black, it means something else. It's revolutionary. It's a class. It's a state of oppression. It is a different way. It is a different identity attached to politics. Diabolical. This thing is diabolical. Jenny says, I feel like I can't do anything anywhere these days without having to deal with politics, just everywhere. I mean, it truly is. People, Donald Trump has like, whether you like him or not, he definitely has awakened a lot of people to what has been going on in America. And like I said, whether you like him or not, you can't no longer kind of sit on the sidelines because these things are so in our face all the time. Not saying that you have to do, things like what I do or other people do. And I want to say, even with this uncovering or exposing of all of this wicked stuff that's been going on in our country, there are still people who are going to subvert, still grift, still do all the things that people have done throughout time when movements start, when people are starting to wake up. The enemy don't sit back and say, okay, they got it now. No, he tries to find other people to use so he can sift them like wheat and use them to sow discord and corruption into different movements and stuff. So it's like a never-ending thing. But the man says it. There is a distinction between Negro and colored and being black. Who wants to, Ryan, you got a disagreement with that? The man just said it. What a statement to say someone doesn't know nothing. Well, sometimes people don't know anything, and you can discern that they don't by what they're saying. Like it's that can be true that somebody doesn't know anything or doesn't know anything about what we're, the topic. That can be true. It's not it can be a fact. Let's see. Okay, here's another one.
There's a lot of basic humanity involved in ownership and management of fairly large-scale business operations. What's being built is confidence and know-how, and these are essential qualities to an individual's personal strength.
I'd like to just make one comment on that. I think we ought to realize this, that when we talk about human values, I think we're going to have to specify it more. One, we are powerless people. And the economic development program that we're involved on is centered toward getting us some power. Now, the common denominator for that is control of wealth.
We're powerless people. We don't have no power. We don't have any power. So we got to go take somebody else's. That's what we're going to do. We're Christians, but we have no power. What kind of Christian don't have any power? And then they're like, well, they're talking about political power, not spiritual power. Okay, but your spiritual power is the thing that you need to fight any type of power, because it doesn't start in the natural realm. God uses us to advance his kingdom. The enemy finds people who he can use to advance his kingdom. And many times they do it through politics. God uses people in politics, so does Satan. Do you want to live under laws that were created and formed by people who are of the kingdom of darkness? Or would you rather live under laws that were put into place under people that are, even if they're not Christians, they can be aligned with the Bible? Do you want moral law, or do you want people who say that children can mutilate their bodies because they think that they are some other gender? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a clear division. This is a clear line of delineation, okay? Thank you so much, Yvette Clark. Yvette says, hold on, I can't. It says pulling. Thank you for your $10 super chat. She says, pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. That kind, Dirk. So she was responding to someone. But that's the word right there. Amen. Pulling down strongholds. Let's see. And wow, I can't believe she just said that about Trump, a man who's breaking the law by having a UFC fight on the White House lawn. LMAO. What is that a policy? See, this is what y'all who are so, you don't really understand politics. You're moved by very like superficial things. Is him having a UFC fight on the law, is that, I don't even know all the details. You probably don't know either, but whatever. Is that policy that's going to govern your life? It's not. Just in case you didn't know, it's not policy that will govern your life or your children's life or prevent you from evangelizing or doing any of those things. That has not, it ain't that big of a deal. If that's your only concern, the president of my country is, It's our 250th anniversary, and the man wants to have a UFC fight on the White House. Oh, how dare he? Really? That sounds like something you would be beefing about, because that's why you won't come up here and defend. You want to come up here and defend your statements. It's so ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. I can't roll my eyes hard enough at you, Ryan. Oh, Lord have mercy. Hello, Sarah. Sarah says, my point is, why are you complaining about the UFC? If Obama can build a basketball court, then Trump can build the UFC arena. And at least it's for the I believe, isn't it for and around like the 250th anniversary? Isn't that what it is? Oh, or is this like a permanent? I don't even know. We're not talking about that today, but that's not a big deal. Denzel Early says, not getting pro-black vibes here. Yeah, I'm not pro-black. I'm pro-Jesus. You should not be pro-black either. Denzel Early got in his profile pictures. United Nations Declaration, the right of indigenous peoples. Okay. All right, then. You go, boy. Good night. Boy, these people woke and woke and woke and woke and woke. So that dude, this one right here.
Ideologically speaking.
Earlier this month, over 700 churchmen from all denominations gathered in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Gateway Hotel to discuss the question of the church's part in the Black liberation movement. Keynote speaker, Vincent Harding of Spelman College.
Yeah, that guy, Vincent Harding, he died. I'm sorry. Was. He was born on my birthday, July 25th, but in 1931. Let's see. He's from New York, of course. He went to the University of Chicago, Columbia, darling. Okay. Let's see. Let me get. Let's see. We're gonna share this. So Vincent, this is who. Hold on, let me show y'all a updated picture. Oh gosh, I can't stand that. Hold on, y'all. You tell him, Katie, the body of Christ is not based on or divided by skin color. Amen. No, it is not. People don't like God's way. They want to make up their own way. They want their own gospel. They don't want the Lord's way. They want their way. This is Vincent. This was Vincent, his write-up in the New York Times before he died. Or I guess when he died. Vincent Harding, a historian, author, and activist who wrote one of the most polarizing speeches ever given by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, in which Dr. King expressed ardent opposition to the Vietnam War. He died on Monday in Philadelphia. He was 82. His death from an aneurysm was confirmed by the Iliff School of Theology in Denver. It's probably woke, where he was emeritus professor of religion and social transformation. Really? Would you look at that? He never changed, is what is my point of reading this. He never changed. The same guy who was like, we cannot be black and we're not pigmentally black, and we're not a Negro, we're not colored, we're black and Christian. And no, we don't want your that Lord of yours. Well, he's certainly not precious. Okay, this is that guy who was a theologian. More than half a century, Dr. Harding worked at the nexus of race, religion, and social responsibility. Though he was not as high profile a figure as some of his contemporaries, he preferred to work largely behind the scenes. He was widely considered a central figure in the civil rights movement. Hey, friend, advisor, and sometimes speechwriter to Dr. King. Dr. Harding was a member of the cohort that helped carry on his mission after his assassination in 1968. Dr. Harding, the first director of what is now the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change in Atlanta, was in the vanguard of promoting Black studies as an academic discipline at colleges and universities throughout the country. You don't say. That sounds like a lot of power to me. It sounds like a lot of power to me that these people run around. We have no power. I need power. We have no power. But you are literally creating curriculum, academic discipline at colleges and universities throughout the entire country. The entire country is moving on your words in academia, in Black studies. That's a lot of power. He said, what else did he do? He served as a consultant to television programs about the African-American experience. Notably, Eyes on the Prize, a critically acclaimed documentary series first broadcast on PBS in 1987. As a historian, Dr. Harding argued that Black Americans, and by extension, all Americans, could not understand the social struggles that lay ahead without a deep understanding of those who had gone before. Okay. He was known in particular for two books. There is a River, The Black Struggle for Freedom in America in 1981, and Martin Luther King, The Inconvenient Hero, 1996. In Is There a River, Dr. Harding examined the tradition of Black protest, a movement he likened to a river flowing through centuries of American history. Yo, these people, why don't these people, if they are so committed to God and Jesus, it's funny how they never mention him or his word or his teachings. But he will talk about a river flowing through centuries of American history. You know, he'll compare that to, you know, with Black protest. I have tried, he wrote, to provide a rigorous analysis of the long Black movement toward justice, equity, and truth. But simultaneously, he continued, I have freely allowed myself to celebrate. Yeah, because you didn't really have anything to protest. Reviewing the volume in the New York Times Book Review, the historian Eric Fauna described it as embodying blah, 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 blah. It says, after Army service and experience, he said that made him a committed pacifist. He earned a master's in history from the University of Chicago, followed by a PhD in history there, writing his dissertation on Lyman Beecher, the Protestant minister, anti-slavery advocate, and father of Henry Ward Beecher and Harriet Beecher Stowe. In the early 60s, Dr. Harding and his wife, the former Rosemary Freeney, moved to Atlanta, where they established Mennonite House, an integrated community center. The site they secured for it happened to be the childhood home of the soprano Matilda Dobbs. I don't know who that is. Among the first Black singers to perform. These people were not anyway. It's a grift. It is a lie. It is a figment of their imagination. There's nothing, ain't nobody oppressing these people. They're doing just fine. Jenny, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. She says, gotta run, but I just want to say I'm so glad. Here, let me do this. She says, "Gotta run, but I am so glad to have found your community here. Thank you for saying all the quiet parts out loud and for discussing these topics. It is so important to keep talking." Amen. God bless you. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Make sure you catch the rest on the rerun. You guys, if you would for me, when this is over, please go back and hype this video. Make sure you like it, share it, hype it for me. Please, please, please. Katie says, it's all about rebellion against the Lord and his order of things, plain and simple. Amen. Hold on, where's that? Let's see. I wonder if Chuck knows a lot about this guy. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to see if there's anything else interesting in this article. DG says Keisha's trying to save souls, Megan. I don't believe in trying to save the minds of people who God has already given over to a reprobate and irredeemable mind. You know, the thing about that, DG, is that we don't know who God, I mean, okay, the Bible says you will know them by their fruit, but we don't know whose conscience is seared. You know, our job is to plant and water. God gives the increase, whomever that may be. You know, we don't always know who that is. Let's see. Sarah says, same. I am a Christian first. Amen. I thought Ryan was going to come up. I thought didn't he say that? Didn't he say that he was going to come up and, you know, give us that work? He was going to cook us. Didn't that what he said? Yes. Yeah, Miss Grace says, I just pray for all lost souls daily, individuals when I'm aware. It's hard because some people are just so bad. It is hard to pray for those who are wicked and evil, but we have to do it. This is funny. Ryan be lying. Hello. Okay, and sorry. And Chuck is back. Okay, so I looked up Vincent Harding. Have you heard of him? He was, I don't know if you heard when I was reading his some of his bio, but he wrote King's speech on Vietnam.
Yeah, which speech would that be? Would that be the speech that he delivered on the steps of the United Nations in '67?
I don't know. We'll circle back to that later. I don't want to get off topic. But I do know Ryan Chuck is here, and whatever you wanted to say, click the link, come on up so you can say what you want to say, because we're going to be getting off of here soon, and I don't want to waste his time. He has a family and he wants to get back to them. All right, Ryan. Oh, don't worry. I still got that smoke ready. Okay. It's always
I know you got that smoke ready. You literally smoke in. You need to stop whatever you on, bro. It ain't good for you.
Oh gosh, yep. Come on and click that link, Ryan.
Until he does, I don't know if you had something you wanted to add, but
I had a clip for you, or did you have something that you wanted to?
I want to just quickly clear something up that I said yesterday. I noticed it's funny, like when I'm speaking, you know, I really enjoy sharing knowledge and sharing information with the audience, especially when, you know, I know it's not something that they hear, or something I feel that they may not have heard of, something that they haven't been made aware of. So, you know, I get excited. and I love to do this and come on here and have these conversations with you. And sometimes, you know, it's somewhat of an outer body experience. You know you're speaking, but you don't really hear yourself all the time. And so
Yeah.
sometimes when you have to play the video back, play the live back, and then you go, oh, I didn't catch that when I said that. I didn't mean to say that, but
Mm.
said it. You know, you don't catch those slips, those gaps when you make them. So when I was talking about the some Supreme Court case law last time, and I was referring to Miranda v. Arizona. And Wednesday, I kept saying Miranda v. Ohio, which I know, you know, a lot of people are pretty familiar with the Miranda v. Arizona case because it's a very
Mm-hmm.
pivotal case in Supreme Court history. But what I was getting confused when I was saying Ohio instead of Arizona is I was getting that confused with a 1961 Supreme Court decision. uh, it was a woman named Dolly Mapp v. Ohio. So Mapp Miranda. That's what I was getting confused.
Um.
And yeah, it's very. This was the era of judicial activism for the purpose of virtually making it easier for criminals to get away with their crimes. You know, if I may, I just try to like, briefly summarize because there were three major Supreme Court cases. It was Dolly Mapp v. Ohio in '61. You had the case that I was referring to primarily Wednesday, which was Danny Escobedo v. Illinois in 1964. And then you had Ernesto Miranda v. Arizona, and I think 1966.
Mm.
And it's interesting because I'm not a legal beagle. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just a historian by hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you're talking about the law, it can get very esoteric, and some of these clauses kind of blend together, and you kind of forget which clause belongs to which amendment. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the Fourth and Fifth and the Sixth Amendment kind of get a little bit fuzzy. At least for me, they do.
Mm-hmm.
But the main point of legal contention within the Escobedo case was the Sixth Amendment. And if you read the Sixth Amendment when it comes to legal representation, the Sixth Amendment clearly states that one has the right to counsel during a criminal proceeding, not during custodial detainment. And that was the dissent. It was a 5-4 decision. It was a slim margin of victory in favor of Escobedo, but these were judicial activists that were trying to hamstring law enforcement. Even if you believe that having the right to counsel is fair, if you think it's a good idea, if you think that's a just thing, that's a separate issue. If you feel that way, then the Constitution needs to be amended to add that in. But you can't read in, laws and legal protections that were not intended, that the amendments weren't intended to protect during the time of their ratification. And so it was a bastardization of the Sixth Amendment. And like I said, Danny Escobedo was a killer
Mm-hmm.
during an interrogation. He did request to have a lawyer. His requests were ignored. After hours of interrogation, he eventually confessed to murder. And they said that it was unconstitutional because he had requested counsel. But with the Constitution, does it say that you're allowed counsel during
Mm.
interrogation? It
Mm-hmm.
literally, if you read the Sixth Amendment, the language clearly states during a criminal proceeding,
Mm.
for the purpose of protecting one from self-incrimination. But that's during a legal proceeding, so you have to be charged. You don't get a lawyer before you're charged.
Mm.
Now you do, but again, they invented the activist court at the time invented that. And
Mm.
Escobedo was a career criminal. He would go on to be afterwards. He went on to be arrested several more times throughout the years, eventually culminating in another conviction in sometime during the mid to late '80s. He was convicted of on 2 counts of attempted murder. He was a career
Oh,
criminal.
wow.
And so was Ernesto Miranda, the person whose name we get the famous Miranda rights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a career criminal as well. Um, He confessed to sexual assault, to graping and kidnapping a woman, and he had his conviction tossed out because the Supreme Court deemed that he wasn't made aware of his rights, which law enforcement was under no obligation prior to 1966 to make sure that a criminal knew their rights, if you either know them or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So his conviction was overturned. He too was a career criminal. He ended up getting stabbed to death in a bar fight some years later. He was a career criminal, and so was Doreen Mapp. She was a career criminal as well. She was linked to a bombing of one of Don King, the famous boxing promoter, infamous boxing promoter. She was linked to a bombing of one of his illegal gambling establishments, which is what led to her conviction because police supposedly entered her home without a warrant and found all sorts of obscene paraphernalia, and she was found guilty of violating the state of Ohio's obscenity laws. But she was a career criminal as well. So all three of them were career criminals.
They always seem to be very demoralized people.
And
I want.
you say that because this guy talking about where do I get this stuff from, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Well,
Mhm.
I just did his work for him, but I did it for the audience that may have been interested in some of those Supreme Court cases. But I'm sorry, Quisha, I cut you off.
All good. Thank you for that. But I saw this comment come through and says, "How is it?" This is Rick the Daffrey. How is it just fine? I hope they are still here. How is it just fine when I have to worry about my son being unalived or losing my life just because they happen to live in a time when economy wasn't totally destroyed and some black churches happened
Man.
happen to have their finances together?
I'm not quite sure what you mean, man. I'm not trying to be rude, but maybe you were typing a little bit too quickly. Do you know what that person is trying to say, Keisha? Maybe I need to read it a little slower.
How is it just fine when I have to worry about my son being unalive or losing my life just because they happen to live in a time when the economy wasn't totally, I don't know, but at the end of the day, the thing that caught my eye is, how is it fine when I have to worry about my son being unalive or losing my life?
I don't know what
Why
they're
do
talking about.
you feel like you have, like, why is that at the top of your mind? Like, is it
Are they talking about? Because I saw somebody make a comment about church bombings back in the day. I'm not trying to be. I'm not about. I guess I will wear a tinfoil hat for a second. Um, we don't really know exactly who was behind a lot of these church bombings. There were many instances where these left wing activists were bombing their own churches and
yes,
bombing their own property. What the communists were doing, many communists had infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan, for one, and for two, many communists were engaging in these sorts of activities, sort of like what the SPLC has been accused of by the federal government as we speak.
correct.
And they would try to blame these attacks on white racists for the purpose of driving more blacks into the waiting arms of the Communist Party.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't really know exactly who was behind some of these church bombings. Maybe some of them were genuine acts of racial hatred, but in many instances it was not. And we see a lot of these types of racial hoaxes happening today, from, of course, Juicy Smollett all the way down. These types of things were happening back in the 50s and 60s as well.
Yeah,
This is nothing new.
nothing new.
And it's amazing, Keisha. Again, Ryan said something in the comment section, and I'm laughing because as you play the clip, and I'm saying to myself, look at all of these affluent, suit and tie, highfalutin intellectual Negroes, intellectuals and black pastors running around talking about how they're going to be the brain trust of the black community. This kind of W.E.B. Du Bois talented 10th mentality. Where did this come from? Where did all this education and prosperity even come from for you to even come before me and proclaim that you're going to lead me somewhere? How is this even possible? Right? Because there were,
Mm-hmm.
as Howard Zinn stated, that's where I got it from, out of the mouth of Howard Zinn himself, based upon his observations. that there were a lot of successful black people around Atlanta, at least, but they were successful black people all around the country. As a matter of fact, to speak of Quisha, MLK, his top lawyer, Clarence B. Jones, I mentioned him earlier. Clarence B. Jones was a wealthy black attorney who represented black celebrities in Hollywood in the 1960s. It is said that Clarence B. Jones was so affluent and well off at the time that when Martin Luther King came to his house, he was shocked to find that Clarence B. Jones had a waterfall in his house.
Wow.
And you know, a black attorney who had a waterfall in his house. King goes to Clarence B. Jones's home and tries to recruit him into the movement. Clarence B. Jones said, "No, I'm straight, bro. I'm making a good living. I don't really see the problem here." And Dr. King says, "Okay." And like the slime ball that MLK was, he proceeds to the following day or so, or not too long after that, their private conversation. King proceeds to go to Clarence B. Jones's church at Clarence B. Jones's invitation, gives a sermon where he attacks and criticizes Clarence B. Jones subliminally to his face in front of the entire congregation, accusing him of being an Uncle Tom.
Wow.
That's why Clarence B. Jones, in a fit of guilt, he was so guilt-ridden, and he was so shamed that he went ahead and decided to forego his prosperous career as a entertainment lawyer to join up with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Wow.
So black people all over the place.
But and I don't think people understand, but this is the communists. This is what they do. You know, this is how they move. If you don't understand that, it's a very covert. That's the point. It's covert. It's deceptive. That's how you know it's not from God. Somebody in the comments like, "Oh, it's a solution to capitalism." No, it's not. It is from Satan.
It's not a solution to capitalism. Listen here, and like I said before, when it came to capitalism being an ideology and not an economic system, I don't think the person who made that comment even really understands the full weight of what Marxism is and what it entails. I don't think they know. But the thing about it is, when it comes to property and when it comes to things, right, the things that we use, the things that we purchase, the things that we buy, all of the things that we utilize, sir, in the comment section. I'm not trying to be rude with you, man. I'm just trying to listen, man. Please educate yourself. Let me explain something to you. Everything that we use has a price. Okay. And when you're talking about Marxism versus capitalism from an economic point of view, the question simply becomes who or what or by what mechanisms do these prices get set? Okay. In a state-controlled economy, i.e., a collectivist society or a Marxist society, the prices are set by bureaucrats who are appointed by those who control the long arm of the state.
Yeah, the people from the Harvards, the Columbias, the PhDs, the ones who are writing the papers.
As opposed to a market. Now, when you have a Marxist economy, and this is why you don't have black success by and large, because black people buy into all of this collectivist nonsense. If I was listening to Andrew Clavin, who I said on many occasions before.
And I just want to say, Ryan has entered the chats, wants to come up, but if you want to go ahead and finish your point.
Like I said, if you people like to exploit grievance by pointing out factors like relative inequality, meaning that you may not have as much as someone else has, but that tide is going to lift. That rising tide is going to lift every boat. You may not have everything that you feel like you deserve, but you have the opportunity to get the things that you want if you're willing to work hard enough. The problem is when you have a small collection of bureaucrats that are setting prices for the entire society. Prices don't always reflect costs, because prices in a market-based economy reflects costs. And so when within a Marxist society, when prices are artificially set for the purpose of making sure that everyone has their needs and wants met, no one is going to be incentivized to produce those things because no one is going to be willing to pay the cost. Not in terms of financially, but what, mind you, Keisha, let's think of how hard a person has to work to become a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon, the sacrifice, the time, and the intellectual vigor that it takes. And you're going to tell me that I have to sell myself short because everyone deserves a good doctor? Well, if everyone deserves a good doctor, when you Marxify a society, then no one's going to have a doctor.
That's it. I'm gonna bring up Ryan because it's getting late in the day, late in the night. What's up, Ryan? How are you? Welcome.
How you doing? How you doing tonight?
I'm good. Thanks for being here. All right. You done made your way up. You ain't thumb thugging in the comments. What do you got on the
Of
top?
course. Well, there's a few points. I was just letting them go because, I mean, I like to hear people out. I really don't understand where you all have like such a problem with like socialists and Marxists and all this other stuff. If you I understand it's not a good system, but all the critiques you all have of that, I don't really hear you all say anything bad about capitalism.
What is
And I just wonder,
capitalism, if you don't mind me? Can you define it for me? What is your understanding of that
Chuck, in your
term?
words, you would simply call it a free market. You would say if you work hard and you do the right thing, you'll get the right result, right?
That's not necessarily the free market system, but how do you define it though? What is your like? How would you define capitalism?
I would define it as an unfair system
An
that is
unfair
That's not
controlled
a
by a
definition.
small
What
group.
is it though? Not
That's what I'm trying to say. Capitalism is a system that is controlled by a small group in different sectors that can set the price however they want to, right? Am I wrong or right so far?
you're wrong.
No,
That's
you're wrong.
actually
No, you're wrong. You're dead
Marxism.
wrong.
That's Marxist. All right, all right,
You're
all right.
dead wrong.
Bet. What's
I got a
capitalism?
question. I guess got
Give
a
me
question for you,
capitalism. No,
Ryan.
wait. Give me
I'm gonna
capitalism.
let you. I'm gonna let you cook, bro. I'm gonna let you cook. Don't worry about it.
What's your definition of capitalism?
Give a person a rope. Let them hang themselves, bro. I'm gonna let you cook.
You already did that, bro. You already did that with with the law talk.
Look, what
You
is
already did that with the
stay
law talk.
focused, Ryan.
We
Stay
gonna
focused.
we
What
can
is
get that.
capitalism? What is capitalism?
When you say control, when you say people, small group of people controlling, I can't remember exactly the noun you use, but do you happen to belong to a union? I'm curious.
No,
Do you support union labor?
I think workers should have protections. Yes.
Do you support union labor though? Do you support collective bargaining?
Yeah. Why don't you?
You do. So according to your definition of capitalism, you support capitalism then if you support collective bargaining.
No, I don't. What's your definition? Why don't you support unions?
Okay, okay. What do you think a union is? I know you said you don't belong to one, so maybe you don't know what
You
a union
we
is. Maybe
see.
you
This is
don't know
called
what a
moving
union
the
is.
goalposts. You keep moving the goalposts. So
Quiet
let's,
down. I'm trying to educate you on how
bro. Don't worry
markets
about
work.
educating me. How about that? Don't worry about educating me. All right.
But
Just
you
assume
have
that
to
I'm
wait.
the
Hold on.
smartest shit, right?
Wait a minute, right? You have to have definitions in order to have the conversation, so we're on the
All
same
right.
page.
All right. And you all have not given me a definition.
Now,
You all keep asking me a
wait,
definition.
because
So
you can't
I
Yes,
will
we need to
come.
know yours as well.
quiet
I will come.
down.
Okay. I've told you
Quiet
mine, and you
down, bro.
interrupted me. I've
No,
told you mine, and you interrupted me. So now I'm giving you all.
Mute him so I can educate the audience on why I'm asking him the question that I'm asking him.
Hold
Because
on.
he specifically remarked that capitalism is a system wherein a small cabal controls a certain segment of the market. Okay, and that is precisely what a labor union does. What a labor union does, it monopolizes a certain aspect of the labor market and sets prices for the entire industry. Hello, genius. This is why I'm from Detroit. I live here and I've lived here my entire life, and I personally saw what collective bargaining did to the automotive industry. We have the United Auto Workers Union here in Michigan, And what they have the power to do is that they have the power to set, for example, wages for every single automotive worker across a multitude of companies. That's General Motors, Chrysler, and Ford. These are totally separate companies, and their workers belong to one union-based entity that bargains collectively on behalf of all the laborers. So again, when you're talking about control, this kind of cartelism where prices are set by a small cabal, that is exactly what you have when it comes to commodities. What say
Oh,
you when
sorry,
it
I thought
comes
you
to
were.
the monopolization of the labor market? Not necessarily the commodity, the monopolization of certain products within the market, but labor itself, which is the thing, according to Adam Smith, that was given, that was the first thing that was actually given a price was human labor. So what say you when it comes to that, Chuck?
You can respond, Ryan. You just respond.
So who would you say
Your
doesn't?
background is really loud. Can you
There,
like
yeah, there's a bunch of cars going by.
okay.
They race on the street. So Chuck, who would you say does it right? If you think a union is the reason why Detroit is the way it is, not because they're sent overseas, right? But
Yeah, I
you tell
know.
me.
And you get cheaper cars that are of higher quality, and the consumers in the United States purchase foreign cars because they want them. Okay.
But we like things
So
American made, though, right, Chuck?
one of the major reasons why a lot of our jobs were offshored was because of artificially set labor prices. Because what you cannot do is you cannot stagnate the price of labor at the expense of innovation and development. Because in economy, I forgot who the philosopher was, or he might have been a sociologist or an economist came up with this, or he described an economy as a creative. How did he frame it? It was like an oxymoron. He called it a destructive and active destructive creativity. That is what begets process or progress. It's a part of the process. When we progress, we inevitably destroy the act of progression. So when we artificially set labor prices, employers, they know what the market suggests is an adequate price for a person's labor. But when collective bargaining refuses to allow someone else who's willing to work at a lower wage work for that wage that the employer is willing to offer, because it's their property, it's their money that they're paying you. This is why they, of course, they outside, they picket, they block scabs from coming in, and they think that the scab is doing a disservice to them because they think the job belongs to them in perpetuity.
Mm.
That they're going to bargain as a collective, as opposed to one person being like, "Hey, I don't need that much money. I want them to work for less." But they think that it is immoral for someone to undercut their demands. The employer doesn't have to pay them what the employer doesn't want to pay them, because it's their money. And so
Let
what
me
they do is they simply say, I won't deal with you. I'll go employ someone who's willing to work for the wage that I am willing to offer. And what that does is that hollows out an economy, because again, people are not obligated to give you a job. They aren't obligated to produce for you. They're not obligated to do anything for you. So you can demand however much money you want. They don't have to pay you. That's the way the world works.
That's who, Chuck.
Oh my goodness!
set.
No. It's not. Oh my goodness. Okay, so
I'm
if a union,
gonna answer for him. Can
I
I
was
answer you?
talking. I was talking. So
No,
if a
you asked
union
me a
is the
question.
wrong way, if a union is the wrong way, then who's the right way, right? Who
You
keeps
have
these billionaires? Who
I,
keeps billionaires in check, right? Or they? Oh, let me guess. They don't need any oversight, right? Because they always do the right thing, right, Chuck? They always do the right thing, right?
I mean, we have laws in this country and not all
Oh, here you go.
laws in this country, and not all regulations, and not all regulations are inherently bad. I think that we in the United States, I think we are overly regulated, of course, but
But you think that
I don't have any issues with billionaires
but
because
you but
time out now, because billionaires make my life a lot more comfortable. You see, there's
no,
only
it's
two ways.
wow.
Only
What a
two ways.
capitalistic thing to say. Wow.
You're
Wow.
on a phone right now because of a billionaire, sir. We're on this
Wow.
internet because of a billionaire.
No.
Billionaire.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you
I
this.
want
Let me tell you
Ryan
this.
to.
No,
Before you all say
No,
anything.
wait. Hold on, Chuck. 1 second, Chuck. I do want to hear Ryan.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to let Ryan speak his piece, and I'm going to get off of here because, quite
That's smart.
frankly, I don't.
All right, Ryan. Look,
Ryan, because he thinks that
don't
he's
do
making
that.
a good show of himself, and he's really embarrassing himself. And I don't listen.
You can keep throwing all these names. I don't have to throw names, bro. Answer questions. Answer questions, bro.
Bro, I just gave you a whole rudimentary breakdown of basic economics 101, and then your simple response to me, like a 2-year-old, was "says who?" As if I were to approach you with my hand out and ask you for something you don't want to give me. If I show up at your front door and knock on your door and ask you, "Hey, sir," because we used to, little kids used to do that back in my own neighborhood when I was growing up. When kids wanted to make a buck, they would go around the neighborhood and they would knock on neighbors' doors and ask if they wanted to have their grass cut. "Hey, mister, can I cut your grass?" How much? I'll cut your entire lawn for $20. Oh, nah, man, no, thank you. I said no. Now, you mean to tell me if someone demands that I pay them $20 to have them cut my grass, I'm obligated to pay them money to cut my grass when I don't want their services? Labor is a service. I don't need your labor. If I don't want your labor, I don't want it.
All right. So what do you say to that, Ryan?
All right. Who started a business? Who started a business without workers? Who started a business without workers?
You're not answering the question.
I know. Because you can't hear me.
Listen, I'm trying to say bye. Goodbye, Quisha. I'm
all right, peace.
I don't cast pearls before swine.
Ooh.
So, Quisha, I'm gonna get up off of here. I mean, seriously, you see that? I mean, if I'm speaking to somebody and I think that they are somewhat sensible and have some modicum of intelligence about them, even Bottom Line wasn't this stupid. So I don't cast pearls before swine. It's like trying to explain quantum physics to someone who doesn't understand basic arithmetic. It's like talking to a child. I'm not gonna waste my time. So, Keisha, you have a good night, okay? Maybe
thanks for coming on. That was really, really good. I'll see you later. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan.
Lord, boy.
Okay, you don't believe
I knew it would go like that because it's so simple just to answer a question. It's
for
so
you,
simple
as
to
well,
answer
though,
a question.
It's very simple to answer the question.
That's the same tactic that you all always use. Give me your definition. You all don't ever give any definitions.
It's not a tactic. It's a way to.
It is a tactic. This is a debate. You, when you started this channel, whether you want to admit it or not, there are tactics that you use. That is the way it works, if you like it or not. There is no reason for him to get that frustrated and to get off and to say this and to say that.
You came on here with the battery in your bag. Anyway,
I am not frustrated.
Well, whatever this is,
when people pass off wrong information.
Ryan,
go ahead.
How is it that you can have a conversation, a reasonable one, if you don't understand where each other is coming from?
You keep talking. You let one person talk.
Because you're wrong.
You let one person talk.
That is wrong,
and then you
Ryan.
let
I will
the
tell
other
you why.
person talk.
Just
so you're saying
for a second. You don't listen for a second. If you keep talking, but you have not defined what you both believe, you're
In 3
going to be
words.
talking in different talking past each other. You're not even going to be talking about the same thing. That is why you define the terms, not to just keep talking into oblivion when you don't even start at the same premise. That's why you define the
That's what you
terms.
say. That's what you say all the time. That's called moving the goalposts.
No,
If you watch a
defining the
debate,
wait,
see,
are you
see,
saying that
see,
defining the terms is moving the goalpost?
yes. If you can't
Goodbye.
answer the same question,
Brian, oh my
if
God,
you
I
can't answer the
can't with
same
you.
question, it's the
That is
same
not, are you
thing.
serious? You think
Watch
that
any debate in college.
you think that defining terms, giving a definition of something that you're talking about is moving the goalpost?
How long have you given me this last 5 minutes? How long have you given me to define myself or define my definition?
You didn't
Right?
want to. You said, but just define capitalism.
See right there? See? You could have easily said, Ryan, I've given you 5 words maximum to explain yourself. Is that fair? Simple question. Is that fair?
How old are you?
Simple question.
How
Is that
old are
fair? 41. Again, is that fair? Is it fair that you get to say about 20, 25, 30 words, and yet as soon as someone else tries to do the same thing, which is called, if I may be mistaken, common courtesy, you interrupt them because they don't say the first right 5 words that you think?
No, I interrupt you because you're going off in a wrong direction.
There is no
Let me
excuse
tell
for
you why.
interruption.
Before I go off on you for real. Okay.
There's no excuse for interruption. You cannot find a group of people that will say there is an excuse to interrupt somebody.
Whether you like it, this is a dictatorship over here, okay?
That's not healthy. That's not a good statement. That's not a good.
I can't do it. Sorry, y'all. Can't do it. You can't. You cannot have a person who is that ignorant at 41 years old to try to have a conversation with. If you think defining your terms to have a conversation means moving the goalpost, how is it moving the goalpost? We don't even have a goalpost yet. We're just defining the terms. We're just warming up. But you can't have that kind of you can't have a conversation with that. You cannot. Okay. That is peak ignorance. That is 41 years of, I don't know what, just sitting in front of the TV. Billy, I don't even know, how do you get that ignorant? That's crazy. Whoo, that is wow. This man want to talk about fairness, but you think you want to say, oh, it's fair, do what's fair, but you think that someone else should get to determine what you work for, how much money you decide you want to make or not work for. But he thinks he knows what fairness actually is. These people are. This is how you can infiltrate a Black church and it work, because these people they don't read. They don't have basic understanding. You can't possibly. You cannot. I'm going to read a few more and then we're going to call it a night. Paul says, thank you, Chuck. You can't argue with an idiot. Whew. Wow. Karen says, yeah, he's emotional and doesn't listen. Megan says, and we were willing to give Ryan a chance to, and all he did was poop all over it. Okay. Mrs. Graves says, he is immature. He thinks he's a victim where others, he is, and thinks he is a victim where others, they are responsible for his life. The theys are responsible for his life. Megan says Ryan is digging his own grave. Maru says, hi, Maru. He says, sometimes it's just best to walk away from stupidity than entertain it. Indeed. Rick says, it's establishing a base understanding because people define words differently. Exactly. Like we didn't even get to a goal post to even move. We didn't even get there. You know, you're moving the goalpost by definitions. I have never heard such an insane thing. I've never heard anybody say anything like that. Like it's so telling that you don't read, that you don't engage in thought. You don't have fruitful thoughts. If you believe that defining a term, how do you even read a book? Okay, don't you ever come across a time when you're reading a book and you're like, oh, I don't know what that word is. In order for you to really understand the book and what you're reading, you got to go get the definition of the word. Like that's how, you know, he don't read. He can't possibly, or he just reading stuff. I don't know what this say. I don't know what these words mean, but I'm gonna read it. And then look. So let me get it. I wonder, when you read and you go and get the definition of a word, did you just move the goalpost? Did you move the goalpost when you went to, you know, to get the definition of the word that you didn't know? Did you just move the goalpost of the book? Like that is so ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Woo! Dog catcher, hey, he says you have to have an understanding of the term to make sure you're on the same page. I mean, this is very simple. Good Lord. Wow. DT says insane things come from the mouths of the insane. Quisha. Good. I mean, I don't know. That, you know what? I'm gonna write that one down because I think that needs to go. I need a book. I need to create a book of like crazy things that the bliggities say. That's what we're gonna do. So today, what is today? June 12th, 2026. Ryan Taylor quote, defining terms moves the goalpost of the debate. Wow, that's a doozy. That's a doozy. Define. I bet you that's public school right there. Let's see. Megan says, I'm still stuck on Chuck saying I don't cast pearls before swine. That was epic. Yes. Drop that scripture on them. Rain Me says they don't read because they think the enemy wrote the book. Okay. DT says Ryan did not sound black, which makes him even worse because he's probably a white liberal who thinks he knows what it means to be black. I think before he said he is black. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, I could be wrong. Ignorant is ignorant though. Woo! But you know what? I'm gonna steal a Marxist framework. I'm not saying he's a bliggity in pigment. I'm saying he's a bliggity in ideology. You can be many colors can come in bliggity. Okay. You can be a bliggity in many colors. Yes, Yvette Clark says, not only must we read, we must comprehend what we read. Exactly. Wow. Whew. Megan says DT, his picture has a black guy in it in Discord. I think he is. At least that's what he says. Um, Mrs. Graham said, oh yes, mind melted indoctrination. Okay, straight bot mode. Like the just bot. No, nothing else. Just whatever he's thought up in his mind. He don't fact check it. He don't test his thoughts. He don't test the spirit. Nothing. It's just straight bot mode. Ryan says, yes, Quisha, 100%. Man, that was rough. I was fine. I was having a grand old time, kikiing with y'all, us learning all this stuff. I am still blown away by how much the Black church is not, like, I can't believe these writings exist. I can't believe that the people who are on TV talking about this. Like, I can't believe like these things are so prominent in society, but yet here they are. And I am here to plant and water, to get this idol, to tear this idol down. We want to tear this idol down. Let's see. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Let me know what you guys thought about tonight's show. I was like, oh my gosh, we found it. You know what? I want to play one more time. I just have to play it one more time because it's so mind-blowing. The crazy.
Earlier this month, over 700 churchmen from all denominations gathered in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Gateway Hotel to discuss the question of the church's part in the Black liberation movement. Keynote speaker Vincent Harding of Spelman College summed it up this way.
A time when we cannot afford the luxury of jibing each other. I wonder if we know and if we're ready to deal with and face the fact that there are a lot of Black folks who can't believe that there is a Lord, and certainly not a precious one, because they.
Okay, I know I said I'm going, but I'm just saying, okay, if this is over 700 Black preachers. Now, if you went to a conference and it was a Christian conference and the Christian got up on stage and said, there are many Black people who can't believe in the Lord and certainly don't believe he's precious, what would you do? What would you do? If a preacher gets up there and says something so blasphemous, or a theologian or whatever, somebody who represents Christ, who says that they come in the name of the Lord, and they're like, we don't even want your Lord, and he certainly ain't precious, do you just sit there? Or, exactly, Katie, he sounds like an atheist. Like, I'm either getting up, if it's not something where I can openly object, or with something like that, I might openly object. It's not a church service. I'm not disrupting the service. This is a conference. I'm like, excuse me. Yeah, I would probably be that person. No, Chuck, how is capitalism only wonderful for the people on top? Many times the people, because of the free market system, which is what is the correct term for what we're talking about, the free market system is what allows for people to get out of poverty. That's the system that allows them to get out of poverty. So I don't understand that, how it's only good for the people at the top. That's actually the Marxist system. It's only good for the people at the top. That's why they're all about the centralized control. They want everybody in their little box and one person on top to tell you what to do. In a free market system, you get to make your own decisions. You and the person that you're dealing with. Here's this job pays this. Do you accept? Yay or nay? This is the cost for this good. Do you want to pay for it? Yay or nay? That's how it works. I mean, you can't do it. You can't have choice from a Marxist economic system. How do you do that? Anyway, maybe that's what we'll talk about next time, how the Black church keeps Black people broke. Paul said 700 Black pastors, Quisha. You object all by yourself. You getting jumped, sis. You know what? I don't even believe those people would do that. I think, you know what I think would happen? I think other people who heard what he said, but they was too scared to say something. I bet you one person getting up and saying, what the ham sandwich are you talking about? That's not the Bible. Are you crazy? And run his behind up out of there. You probably would give some courage to them other ministers sitting up in there. That's right, Katie. Jesus said we will have trouble and tribulation in this world. We weren't promising Rose Garden, not at all. Rick, I'm sorry, Rick DeFree. Please do. We'll be back on Monday. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining and being here. Please hype this video after it's over. Share it, like it. Oh, I hear you, Rick. It's all good. Like, we want to have open dialogue. We don't want to just disagree. We want to, flesh out different ideas and or flesh out different perspectives and things like that. Really kick the tires on what we believe. Truth can handle that. Truth can handle being kicked, pushed, punched. It will stand. So I am never afraid to have any conversation. I'm never afraid to challenge my own thinking, because if I'm not standing on truth, my argument will fall apart. So it's just that simple for me. So come on back, Rick. Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you all. I will see you later.